All right, guys, Mr. Falk here. Today we're going to take a little bit of time to go through 4-2 percentages. Now, the word percentages literally means out of 100. Okay, so all of the problems that we're going to deal with today deal with problems where we're doing some number out of 100. Okay, so the first part here where it says finding a percent can be done using a special proportion. Okay, we're tying this in with proportions because that's what we've been working with the past couple of days. Okay, we want some part out of a whole, all right, and that's going to correspond to some percentage out of 100, all right? So when we're talking about percentages, we're talking about how some number relates to 100. All right, the hardest thing on this is knowing what numbers go where. All right, so if we're looking at the first, if we're talking about the first problem here, what percentage of 50 is 33? So if we're talking about the whole, okay, 50 is going to be the whole number, okay? 33 is going to be the part, and then we are looking for the percentage. So if we're setting up the little equation here, okay, we know this 100 is always going to be, okay, the part that goes on the bottom of the right side there. Okay, we are looking for the percentage. So that's the part that we're looking for here, is the percentage. We can make that X or Y or T or whatever you want. Okay, I'm going to use X. All right, in this case, we already said that 50, okay, was the part, or excuse me, 50 was the whole. Okay, so 50 is going to be the number that goes right here. All right, because 50 corresponds to the 100. 100 is the whole value that we're looking for. Okay, 33 corresponds to the percentage that we're looking for. All right, so now that we've done that, okay, we can go ahead and cross multiply. Now I'm going to go ahead and get rid of these arrows here because that's confusing. All right, now once we have this set up like this, we're going to go ahead and cross multiply both directions. Hopefully we're comfortable with that over the course of the past couple days. This would be a good point to have a calculator if you don't already have one. All right, so what we can do is take 50 times x, that'll just be 50x, equal to 33 times 100. Okay, you can either do this in your head or on a calculator. All right, 33 times 100 is going to be 3,300 or 3,300. All right, and now we're just getting the x by itself. The way we do that is to divide both sides by 50. All right, so remember 50 divided by 50 is 1, or 1x on the left side here. 1x is the same thing as just an x. Okay, on this side we'll go ahead and we'll take 3,300 divided by 50, which will give me 66. All right, now remember that you can always plug this back into your original problem and see and make sure that that's a true statement. Okay, you can divide 33 divided by 50 and figure out what that is as a decimal, and then take 66 divided by 100 and compare that to what you got when you divided 33 by 50, and you should end up with the same number. All right, so number 2, what we're looking at here, it says what number is 75% of 164. All right, so again, we'll go ahead and set up my little proportion here. The hardest part is just knowing what numbers go where. All right, so we're looking for what number is 75%. So we're looking for the part there. Okay, 75% obviously is the percentage out of 100, and we're looking for that number that corresponds to 75% out of 100, right? So what we're doing here is we can set up the right side pretty easily. 75% goes on the top out of 100%. All right, and we want to know what number corresponds to being 75%. So that's the number that's going to go on the top. So that's the number that's going to be our x. Okay, we don't know what number is 75%, so that's going to go on the top. 164 corresponds to the whole. Okay, so that's going to go on the bottom. All right. So now that we have this set up, we can go ahead and cross multiply again. Okay, 100 times x gives me 100x. Again, take your calculator. 164 times 75 will give you 12300, 12,300. All right, and now we have a little one-step equation where we can solve for x. Okay, divide by 100 there to get 1x, or just x. Take 12,300 divided by 100 will give me 123. And again, you can always plug this back into your original problem and make sure that the decimal that you get when you take 123 divided by 164 is the same thing that you get when you divide 75 divided by 100. Okay. All right. Last one here. Okay, where we're setting up the little proportion. Again, we know in this case, okay, it says 21 is 37.5% of what number? Okay, so the things we already know, the 100 is always going to go in that bottom right-hand spot right there. The 37.5 is always going to go in the percentage spot. Now in this case, we're talking about 21 corresponding to 37.5%. So that means that 21 is going to go on the top of this fraction, right? 21 is 37.5%, so those are going to go on the same relative position of the proportion. All right, and the x is the value that we're looking for. Okay, so x is the whole that corresponds to the 100. All right, so 21 is 37.5%, so those go in the same part. Okay, the number that we're looking for, x, corresponds to the whole value that we're going to set up here in terms of my proportion. All right, so what we'll do, okay, same thing where we cross multiply here. All right, so 37.5 times x is going to be equal to 21 times 100, okay, which will be 2,100. Nice little one-step equation. Get the x by itself by dividing both sides by 37.5. All right, this side turns into a 1x, or just x. Okay, 2,100 divided by 37.5 will give you 56. All right, and I'm going to keep emphasizing, if you want to double check your answer, you can plug it in to your original problem, take 21 divided by 56, and make sure that that's the same decimal that you get when you take 37.5 divided by 100. All right, last little story problem here. It says, what percent tip did a customer leave the delivery person if the customer gave $1.30 on an order that cost $18.70? So, okay, let's take a look at this problem here. Again, we'll set up the proportion the exact same way. Okay, we are looking for the percent here. Okay, so we're looking for the percent out of 100. Okay, so the percent, if we're looking for that, that's going to be the value we don't know. Okay, on the other side here, okay, we know that the customer gave $1.30, so that's going to correspond to the percent tip. Okay, that's the part. Okay, the $18.70 corresponds to the whole, okay, which we'll put on the bottom here. And now we're just going to cross multiply. So what we'll do is we'll multiply $18.70 times x and 100 times $1.30. Okay, so I'll have 18.7, you can do 18.70 if you want, times x. And that's got to be equal to what you get on the other side, 100 times $1.30. Okay, and that one would be 130. That's 100 times 1.3, or $1.30. Okay, and then what we'll do, okay, is we will divide both sides by $18.70 to get the percentage. All right, so on this side, again, that cancels out, and we get 1x, or just x. Okay, 130 divided by 18.7 on your calculator is going to be 6.95. Okay, again, which corresponds to the percent that we gave. Okay, so this person paying $1.30 on an $18.70 bill, it's going to be tipping 6.95%, which was not a great percent here. Okay. Yeah, typically we tip a little higher than that, but that's okay. All right, so that's the notes for today. Okay, again, I'm going to keep emphasizing that if you want to double check your answer, you can always plug it back into the original problem and make sure that the decimals that you get on your calculator are the same. All right, so at this point, you can go ahead and start the homework. If you want to go ahead and get started, we'll pick up working through some of these examples when I get back tomorrow. All right, thanks, guys.